Meet Kristina. After visiting 16 cities in Portugal, she and her husband decided Coimbra was for them. But will they stay?
I'm leaving that open. I'm leaving that open.
Is the bureaucracy as bad as everyone says it is?
Well, I tell you, you're warned.
She talks about a common mental roadblock about the visa process.
You might be paying rent on a place and you're not even living there yet.
She got great advice on overcoming this roadblock.
Just gotta get in. We gotta lock something in.
Kristina also has more warnings to share.
We were also warned about charm. When you find your partner, it's charming. Charming usually means cold.
She also opens up to you on her household budget and a realistic cost of living.
If we want to splurge, we'll splurge. But for the most part, we eat at home a lot and then...
Kristina, let's talk about first the bureaucracy of things, because we get asked this a lot about the bureaucracy of Portugal. So how have you gotten caught up in that?
Well, I tell you, you're warned. People tell you, people are always saying the bureaucracy. Any common thing, it's gonna take twice as long, 3 times as long. It can be a little maddening if we're being honest. You know, something as simple as, well, we need to get a resident card. Everybody's got to do that. You go through the process, you follow the rules, you go down your checklist, you do everything right. Sure, it'll take 30 days or it'll take 90 days. And then 6 months later, you're still waiting. You know, you're changing travel appointments because you were expecting this card and you just have to wait. And then, well, you know, no problem. I'll just call the customer service line and get help right away. And you'll call. You may not be able to talk to a person. You might go into an office. You know, depending on the office, this office has this way of doing it. This office has this way of doing it. And then even within an individual office, well, this colleague does it this way and this colleague does it this way. So depending on who you get and the mood that they're in, you might not get an answer. So it can be maddening. So I think it's one of those things. You've been warned, but you just kind of have to go with it. People say Europe, Portugal in particular, it's laid back, it's friendly, it's calm, and it's just part of the process. It's just you learn your Portuguese patience.
That's good. Portuguese patience. Yes.
It's just part of the process of living here. Just relax. It will work out. It might take a little bit longer. Common sense may not apply, but it ultimately will get done.
So emotionally, how do you cope with something like this?
Well, you can commiserate because I promise you everyone has gone through this as well. So you're not alone in this. So you have been warned. You can commiserate whatever you need to do to relieve the stress because that problem is not going to go away. It's just kind of a reality of what it is. So I guess part of the admission of living in this amazing country is you kind of have to find that balance and taking the bureaucracy with all the positive things.
Yes, which we'll get to all the positive things. But one thing I do want to talk about is you can get together with other expats and maybe have a good time, but then also kind of like tell your stories to kind of relieve the stress, right?
Absolutely, because we all have them. We all have them. So yeah, you do get the warnings. Facebook has been amazing. Actually, social media in general has been great. You know, whenever you're, well, yeah, you can hate scroll a little bit, but it's a good outlet if you want to complain. But it's a great place to get advice and to get some guidance on some things. Everybody here is kind of going through the same bureaucracy, the same nonsense, and the same thing. So it's nice to kind of put it out there, and you know, before you do something, get some advice. Hey, how can I avoid this? What can I do to speed this up? Or if you do encounter the problem, hey, who else has encountered this? What did you do?
Yeah.
How did you kind of navigate through it? And you'd be surprised. People will come out of the woodwork on, well, expressing their frustration, but also giving really good sound advice on how you can kind of move forward and figure it out.
Yeah, just getting different ways of doing things. Because like you said, one office does it this way, one person. So if you just can get like 5 different people telling you 5 different things, maybe one of them could work for you.
One of it's going to work.
Yeah, okay. So again, we'll get to the positives in a minute. But first, let's talk about you chose Coimbra. And I want to talk about like the expats here and then why you chose Coimbra. So tell us about that.
We were really excited about moving to Europe, but we wanted to be really careful and intentional. And we had a scouting trip planned. So once we narrowed our field down to Portugal, it was like, all right, well, let's do some research. Let's see, you know, where are people living? We had our sort of checklist that we wanted to go through. One, we wanted to live in a Portuguese city. We didn't want to live in an American city that's in Portugal, and there's definitely a difference. So we wanted to be part of the community. We wanted to learn the language. We wanted to live in a charming Portuguese town. When you have that, then it's a matter of convenience. We intentionally didn't want to have a car. So, okay, well, we need someplace that has great public transportation. I want to take advantage of the excellent healthcare that's here. So I want good hospitals, good clinics, doctors, things like that. And I wanted the conveniences. Obviously, we're in a new country, but I want grocery stores and malls and, access to things that we might need. So when we came, we did a really extensive scouting trip. We picked 16 cities.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, and it was nice. We had sort of a base, and then from there we would take a day trip here, or maybe do a half a day here. It was pretty amazing when we first arrived. I think I had my American eyes on, my American radar was on, and I'm like, wow, I knew it was going to be different, and exciting, but I showed up and I'm like, wow, it's just not charming, and it's just a little dingy and a little gritty, and the sidewalks are not even, and there's a lot of hills, and was this the right choice? And it just doesn't have that feel that I just really expected right off the bat. But once you start kind of seeing these cities, say, all right, well, is this ticking all the boxes? Coimbra was particularly good because it's a big university town. So I think they put a lot of money and effort into creating great cultural events and music and public transportation. And it's got a younger kind of energy. Obviously, it's Portuguese speakers, but most people will speak English at least a little bit because you do have sort of a younger community. So that's been really great for us as far as, having a place where we could work, we could feel comfortable. There's things to do at night. We had looked at a couple of beach towns that were amazing. And I was like, wow, this is really great. It's a beautiful beach. We could get an apartment right on the ocean. How wonderful is this? And it was like, okay, well, that's fine for a few nice days during the summer, but what do you do the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Some places sort of close down.
Get sleepy in the winter,
they
right?
Get very sleepy. So it was like, all right, well, we need someplace that, year round, this is going to be our home. So Coimbra definitely checked all the boxes for that.
And I think a lot of people, when they think of Coimbra, they think of like the old city where the university is and that field, but you actually don't live in that part. Why do you not live in that part? And where do you live, some pros and cons?
Sure. So ideally, we would love to live right in the historic district of Coimbra. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's a walled city. It's a fortress. It's beautiful. There's history. One was cost. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but also availability. When we were going through the visa process, you have to have a home. You have to have a rental or a lease agreement or purchase something. When you go into that appointment, you have to say, listen, I have a bank account. This is where I'm going to live. I'm set up. And it's kind of the price of admission because you might be paying rent on a place and you're not even living there yet. So when we were doing our scouting trip, one of the things we purposely did was we gave ourselves 6 weeks, but we left that final week completely open. And then the idea was, all right, well, if there's a couple of cities that kind of were on our radar that looked like this could be great possibilities, well, hey, we'll go back that final week. We'll really dig in. We'll talk to real estate agents. Maybe we'll open a bank account. We'll get this process going, because we're there. When we decided on Coimbra, that was something that we did. We talked to some real estate agents. We looked at some properties. It was a little bit challenging because we're looking at properties, and if something was available, obviously we weren't going to rent it because we were still in the process of, deciding to move here and everything like that. But what it did do was, you can start a relationship with a real estate agent. They understand what you like, what you don't like, kind of what your needs are. And so when we went back to the States and then we were starting that process of like, okay, we're moving to Portugal, they can send you videos and they can send you listings and they can do that process from afar. So we ended up, because we needed to get a place, our appointment was coming up for the visa, and our real estate agent, she'd send us a listing. Hey, this came available. Now we're about 4 hours behind. So it was like, okay, so let's look at this listing. Okay, yes, we like it. So we would contact her and say, sure, let's get this started. And she's like, nope, it's all been rented.
That's crazy.
And so we played that musical chair game for, several weeks until finally she said, I found this place. This is the place for you guys. You should get it. And so it was like, great, make it happen. She's like, just get here. You just need a place. You need it on paper. You can get in. And then you'll have a whole year. You can look around, get the area, figure it out, but you just got to get in. We got to lock something in. So we were very lucky. We're kind of in a little suburb, I guess, outside of the historic area. It's called Solom, and it's been affordable. I have walking access to 5 major grocery stores. We have the stadium. There's a mall. everything within walking distance. And we have great public transportation here.
Good.
So a bus pass, you can load it up with 20 rides, I believe, and I think it works out to be about 60 cents to take the bus. And they're clean, they're electric, so we've had no problems, hey, jump on the bus, we'll go down. We're in the historic area in less than 10 minutes. I also walk a lot, so 30 minutes I can be right in the historic side too. No issues with living outside of our desired area. It ended up actually being really nice because it's more affordable, a lot more quiet.
Yeah.
Coimbra is known for the university, like I said, but man, they like to throw concerts and parties and events. And we actually have some friends that live in the historic side, and they will literally travel at the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year when they have their big parties. I mean, they start at midnight, they go till 6 a.m.
They're noisy.
They're noisy, so much fun, but loud. So that's something we have to deal with. It's much more quiet, but a beautiful area.
Yeah. So now that you've been here for a bit, do you like it and you would stay rather than being in the middle of things, or you might go to the historic center at some point?
I'm leaving that open.
I'm
leaving that open. We love Coimbra. The place we found has been great. We were lucky. We have a great landlord. Our real estate agent has been great. So
just kind of go with it.
We're just going to go with it.
That's good. That's such a good mentality with everything about Portugal. Just kind of go with it and see how things kind of play out, right?
Yeah, and it's changing. I think a lot of people are moving here.
Yeah.
Not just from the U.S., obviously, but from all over. So I think, real estate is changing, the availability is changing.
Pricing.
Pricing is changing.
Yeah.
We're kind of not on that path of like, well, should we buy a house? We were always homeowners. Our home's still in the U.S., which we're renting out at the moment. So it's kind of, I've always been in that, why are we renting? We're putting money towards something, it's not ours. But I think it's a little different here. I think renting is not so unusual. People might rent the same property for 25 years, and that's not unheard of.
Right.
So, so the renting gives us options. Who knows what's next? We might decide to move to Thailand for a year. You never know.
That's good. Yeah, having that flexibility really helps.
This has been great.
So it seems like Coimbra does have a growing expat community. Have you seen that in the last year or so?
Oh, absolutely. So my husband and I are extremely outgoing, and I think anybody moving to a new country, if you're shy or uncomfortable, take a moment, get outside your comfort zone. You're coming here, it's a new language, it's a new culture. And if you want to meet people, you have to put yourself out there. One of the things is there's a lot of meetups that take place in Coimbra. Huge English-speaking group of people that get together pretty regularly. Okay. And then my husband and I actually started, we sort of countered. So the end of the month meetup, we put one like right in the middle.
Okay.
So we do a mid-month meetup.
Okay.
To kind of supplement that. Because if you can't make the meetup, you're going to wait 2 months until you see everybody again. But it's been great. It's a really good way. You go, you get to meet a lot of people at once. And then from that, you can find your tribe.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've been very lucky. I have made amazing women. We call ourselves sometimes the Garafa girls. So Garafa is like a jug or a bottle of wine. So we'll get together pretty regularly, and we'll do hiking trips on the weekends, and we'll kind of venture out close to Coimbra because there's some amazing parks and historic sites that you can hike, and waterfalls and parks. It's just beautiful.
How do you get to those without a car?
So you do have to have a friend that has a car.
Okay.
Really
friend with a car.
Yes. Yes. So that's worked out in that situation. But you can really, the bus system here is really good. Trains are really good. It's efficient. Europe has figured out how to do public transportation. So it's very easy to, you get apps on the phone. You can find a bus. You can find a train.
You have Uber and Bolt too.
And Uber and Bolt is, the price here is so much more affordable.
It is. So, compared to actually anywhere else in Europe too. As we travel around and you check like Uber, you're like, whoa, that's so expensive. It would be so much cheaper in Portugal, we always say. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, earlier you had said that you went to 16 different cities, and I'm just curious, which ones were like in the top few, just to give like a few options, the top few, and which ones were in your bottom that you're like, no way, didn't like it?
Ooh, okay. So Coimbra became our number one. We also loved Aveiro.
Okay.
They call it the Venice of Portugal. They have the canals. And I was like, okay, that's going to be a little touristy and cheesy, not my thing. But it ended up being great. We had a great time. We met amazing people. It was very similar to Coimbra, had a good energy, and it was a lot flatter.
Yes.
So, like, okay, I could do this. This is really a walkable city. That was a really close second.
Okay.
So those were probably our top.
That's a good comparison, though. Like, it's flatter compared to Coimbra, which is hilly. So people need to be aware it's hilly.
Yes. Your thighs will thank you, but it is, I always watch with these old ladies or people with strollers, and they're going up these hills, and it's cobblestone. And
Good workout.
It's a good workout. It's a good workout. Those were our top two, though. We were kind of like, all right, well, if we can't find something in Coimbra and we end up in Aveiro, that's great.
Okay.
We'll have a great time there. The lower end, probably Setúbal was on our list because it was close to the airports and, it was close to the big cities, and we're like, okay, but it didn't have the charm. And sometimes it's just a feeling when you're there. This doesn't feel like home. I don't feel happy here. This doesn't give me joy.
It's not your vibe.
Not
That's what I like
my vibe,
to say. Yeah.
Not my vibe. And then the Algarve. So I was really excited about the Algarve because, Lagos and some of these areas, they're beautiful. You have these cliffs and the oceans, and it's gorgeous, and it's a little bit of a warmer climate. That was very exciting for me because I'm a big wimp when it comes to winter and cold. So I was really excited about checking that out. But what I found was it was beautiful, but it just seemed like that's where everybody in Portugal goes to vacation, not necessarily live.
Yeah.
So it was big resort towns, only English was spoken. It didn't have the culture and the charm. I didn't feel like I was even living in Portugal. It just kind of had I'm on a vacation, which is great. We wanted a Portuguese experience. We want to be a part of it, part of the community, the people, the language. So beautiful, but as far as living, that it wasn't going to work for us.
Not for you, yeah. Okay, well then how's the weather in Coimbra, since you were worried about the coolness?
It's been good. I think my skin has gotten a little tougher. The first year, I will admit, like I said, I'm a big wimp. It was pretty cold, and I was, coming from Florida of all places, so it was definitely a shock. But I think it's a lot milder here. Like in cities like Porto, which we loved, a little bit colder, a little bit foggier, a little bit rainier. We don't get a lot of rain here. I know last year was an exception. I'm sure the comments are going to fill up, but. For the most part, we don't get a lot of rain. It doesn't get too hot. It doesn't get too cold. It kind of stays in that nice, comfortable area.
That's good.
So it's been a good balance, I think, as far as weather.
And what about your apartment? Because sometimes, especially the older apartments, can be colder on the inside than it is actually outside. So tell us about your apartment, like how that's working and how air and heat has been.
Sure. We were also warned about charm. When you find your apartment, it's charming. Charming usually means cold or damp or
really
wet.
bad insulation.
Yeah, but it's charming.
It's charming,
it's so charming. Yeah, so when we were looking at apartments, one of the things we knew was, okay, well, they don't usually do dryers, like they have washers sometimes, but never a dryer. So a lot of lines, on the place. Okay, I can deal with that. But I want heat.
Okay,
I want heat. That was definitely on the list with our real estate agent. We were lucky. Our place is a little bit newly renovated. So we have the dual pane glass on the windows, so it's very quiet. It keeps the temperature really regulated, which is nice. And all of our, the bedrooms and the main rooms have individual heating, air conditioning, and humidity control.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So I didn't realize what a big deal that was until I talked to other people, and they were saying, the places get cold, it gets damp. It's a really humid country. The damp in the water is definitely an issue. We've been very lucky, like I said, it's modern. We have the humidity control, and I have heat and air conditioner to kind of balance out the weather.
Yeah. What would be like a ballpark figure for utilities for something like that? Like if you've got the mini splits in each room and you're running heat or air in the summer, what do you pay for utilities around?
Not a lot. Obviously, it's more in the winter or summer but we're also kind of conscious of that. We try to keep it, all right, well, if we're working in this room, well, great. We'll put the heat on and shut the door. So now you kind of have a limited into one room. I don't have an exact figure. Average is probably 60 to 80. And then maybe during these colder months, it's probably maybe 120.
Yeah. A little more. So maybe overall throughout the year, you're looking at maybe budgeting 100 or so just to get the averages. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about cost of living in Coimbra. What should someone budget for housing? Since you looked at housing for a while and you saw a variety, what would be like a good budget for, let's do like a T1 or T2?
Sure. Well, it's definitely changed.
Yeah,
I think even since we got here, we were told, because it's just my husband and I, we were like, all right, a T1 is fine. 1 bedroom, maybe 2 would be nice, but we can handle even a big studio with some space, no problem.
Yeah.
1 is availability. You might be looking at about probably $800 to $950 for a 1 or 2 bedroom now.
Yeah.
I think it would have been about $600 a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's definitely gone up. But I think it's all going to come to availability.
Yeah.
We have a 3 bedroom. So we're doing right now $1,100 per month. And it's more than we wanted to spend. I was hoping to get in with a 1 bedroom at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, it's a little bit more, but it's remodeled. We have the heat, we have the air. It's in a great location. I don't mind paying that extra. Obviously, we want to pay less, but for us, I think it was the right move.
Yeah. Some of those comforts.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then what are some other costs that you have throughout the month for Coimbra, like going out to eat, entertainment, some of these things? You said there's a lot going on, so how much money are you spending?
You know what? Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot. Actually, a lot of the entertainment is free.
Okay, great. That's awesome.
Coimbra's notorious. They celebrate a lot of things here. Every saint is represented. Sandwiches, boats, holidays. I always joke too, they're not the best at advertising here. Usually it's word of mouth that we'll hear somebody heard that they're doing something somewhere. Or you're out and about and you come on to something. Hey, there's a stage here set up.
Yeah, what's going on?
A really famous singer is going to be performing here tonight. So that's kind of part of the fun too, is you don't know, but there's always stuff going on. My husband's really into music, so there's particular places that he might really want to check out that has the music scene. I like just getting lost in this city because there's just so many cool things, historic sites and just nature and, so you can just get lost. That's really fun to me. As far as the costs, I'll be honest, when I went into the grocery store for the first time, I giggled because I was just in shock of the quality of the food and the quality of the products and what was available. Pricing was third to a half of what it was in the States. And I was so used to, like, every time you go to the grocery store, it was like $100. Grocery store, $100. And here it's like, obviously we shop a little bit more. We have a smaller refrigerator and we're into, let's eat some fresh food, what's in season. So I'm more of like, maybe I go every other day or every 2 or 3 days at the grocery store. But the costs are extremely competitive. Like it's been a nice shock. And as far as eating out, now Coimbra has your traditional Portuguese restaurants, and then it has your sushi places and your kebab places. I mean, it has everything a major city would have. So it's just kind of what you're into. We don't eat out a lot just because I love to cook. So I'd rather have everybody here. But if we do go out to eat, it's usually a traditional Portuguese because that's something I don't really cook or know much about. Portuguese cuisine, traditional places, very affordable. A glass of wine is cheaper than a soda or a bottle of water. So, that's
might as well have wine.
Yeah, well, it's just being cost effective, of course. We'll take advantage of good pricing for food. So our entertainment budget is not a lot. Our budget more is on our travel right now. Well, you live in the States, and to travel to Europe, it's a huge commitment. It's the expense, and it's a long flight, and there's a lot of logistics involved. And we found that living here, we went to Africa, was one of the first places we went to. It was, less than a 2-hour flight. It cost less than $200. Really affordable. They have trains, they have buses, they've got transportation set in this country. We would rather spend the money on the experiences of travel and experiencing all these different places. So I think that's where the
money goes
our
to.
budget goes.
So this is definitely something that counteracts. You have the bureaucracy, of course, like we talked about at the beginning, but these are so pros and great things about being in Portugal.
Yeah.
The cost of living being lower. We mentioned healthcare off camera earlier, just being able to travel. So all these good perks of living in Portugal.
Yeah.
So for a couple who, obviously lifestyles are different depending on what you like and don't like, but for someone who maybe cooks more, goes out less, but puts some money into travel,
Sure.
what would be a good just range for people to have an idea in in their mind, I'm going to be spending this monthly? Obviously, it depends.
Yeah,
but
that's a great question. And I always think you have to budget more than you think you'll do. So I would think we probably spend groceries maybe 100 a week, maybe. I think that would be pushing it. Okay, so let's take the conservative side. So $400 a month for groceries. Our rent is about $1,100. Our utilities, $80, let's say. One of the great benefits too was when we set up our cell phones here. Our real estate agent said, okay, let's get you your cable, your Wi-Fi, your landline, your cell phones. I think we're spending $60 a month total.
Wow. Yeah, total. To bundle all of that.
For everything.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi alone in the States was probably $100. But we have cable, we have every channel you could think of. We have a landline, we don't use it. We have 2 cell phones with, great plans and streaming. We've got Wi-Fi. Everything is for that $60.
Yeah.
Really affordable. You don't also want to get into that trap of like, well, everything's so affordable, so then you overdo it.
Yeah, and then you're actually spending more money
Correct.
because it is so affordable.
Yeah, so we're trying to be mindful of that. If we want to splurge, we'll splurge. But for the most part, we eat at home a lot, and then we'll go out occasionally, or we'll meet friends, or it's just affordable.
So maybe a couple can think 2,000 euros, but it's variable, obviously, lifestyle and travel. Maybe a little more if you want to travel, and depending on where you're going.
Of course.
Okay, awesome, Kristina. Thanks so much for chatting with me today about Coimbra.
Okay.
And if you want to know more about Coimbra, then check out this video right here. And Josh talks to Christopher, Kristina's husband, on our podcast, so you can check that out right here. Now, let's get moving.